Time for another edition of the Improbability Engine. I'm Will Aubrey. My buddy Joe Darnell is here with me. And Joe, as always, we're going to start with our moment of what, and I'm going first this time.
Go for it.
I saw a story the other day about a woman who had cataract surgery.
Yeah.
They found 27 contact lenses in her eye.
That doesn't help you see better.
No. It might make things a little blurry, kind of like a cataract.
Yeah, that's not. I saw that story too, and I have to admit, when I used to wear contact lenses, that was something that was one of my great fears. Is if I ever fell asleep in them, and I woke up and I couldn't find it. Oh my God, is it in my eye? Is it in the bed? Is it on the pillow? Where's it at? Did I take them out? Oh my God, there's contact lenses floating in my eye. This lady obviously didn't have that fear because she just kept putting contact lenses in her eye. Oh, so not good. Not a good idea. Don't do that, kids.
Can't they make them so that they would just eventually dissolve in your tears?
I'm sure they could, but...
Maybe that wouldn't be such a good idea.
Yeah. My luck, it would be like, oh no, I've got the 9-hour ones. 9 hours? I'm driving! I had really bad eyesight.
Kind of like in Cinderella when it strikes 12.
Boom. I'm blind! I can't see anything at all! Come on! No, that's not a good idea. Don't do that, kids. Take your contact lenses out before going to bed. And keep track of them. Know where they are. Don't just keep shoving contact lenses in your eye. All right, so my moment of what? Will, I don't know if you've noticed this or not, but I'm wearing my U.S. men's national team shirt.
I'm rolling my eyes.
As the U.S. team, after a fairly pedestrian walk through the group stages, has made it to the Gold Cup finals. They're going to play against Jamaica tonight. I know you're a huge soccer fan, Will. I'm
not.
Huge soccer fan. In fact, anybody who ever wants to get on Will's good side, send him soccer memorabilia or link to him soccer stories. He loves them. He's engrossed in this Neymar to PSG thing right now. But one of the things that I'm surprised about, and this is my moment of what, is just how bad the Americans played in the group stage and still managed to end up in the finals of the Gold Cup. It's just surprising. Any of my soccer fans out there who know, you guys know, you watch it long enough, you just kind of go, these guys they weren't very good in the group stage, and now they're in the finals. So.
But look at who they're playing.
Jamaica beat Mexico.
Woohoo! It's like Duke playing UT Martin in basketball. Huge university, tiny university. How many people they have in Jamaica? 6?
No, there are a few million. Here's the problem with that analogy, Will. In your mighty ACC, as we're talking about college basketball, is a university called Wake Forest. Now, Wake Forest has been traditionally one of the better programs in the ACC. Do you know how many people go to Wake Forest University? Like 4,000.
Okay.
Now, using that metric, Florida Atlantic should be a much better program than Wake Forest. But would you take Florida Atlantic over Wake Forest? No, it's all about the 5 you got on the floor.
Don't confuse me with logic.
All right, well, so we're going to do something a little different with the format on this one. You're going to explain to people what's going on?
Right. Instead of sports for the main show today, we're going to talk about what's wrong with the Democratic Party. We have not...
And I know some of you just turned off, so it's just,
yeah.
Those people can go, we'll talk about something else. We'll talk amongst ourselves.
We haven't talked about politics in quite a while, and we could easily talk about the same things that everybody talks about regarding Donald Trump. But that would be boring, and I'm tired of dealing with that mentally anyway. So, we need to discuss what's wrong with the Democratic Party because I think they're severely misguided. They have been for quite a while, and if they want for things to change, then they're going to have to change, and I know you agree with me.
Yeah, and I think it's been an issue that's been there. I think the election of Barack Obama, whenever we're looking at politics and we talk about the idea of nominating a personality, a lot of times that has a negative connotation. That's not always the case. I think that whenever Barack Obama was elected, it galvanized a lot of people in what they hoped and saw in him and in his candidacy. He personified this idea that maybe we can overcome some of the issues that we've had in our past. Throughout his 8 years, he was met with obstructionism and, quite frankly, voter apathy in non-presidential elections, and that all culminated to have not a whole lot change, to be really
That's
honest.
right.
Now, there were some positives. There were things that did happen, but not a whole lot changed. It wasn't the transformational election that I think that Democrats and young people and everybody kind of hoped for.
It was like another 8 years of George W. Bush to a great extent. Now, there were some minor changes, some little tweaks here and there. For example, they did do away with the Bush tax cuts for the extremely wealthy.
Right.
Now, it took about 6 years to do that.
Right.
But they did eventually do away with those. And that was progress. The troop levels in Iraq and Afghanistan were drawn down significantly,
Right.
but that had already been planned, so who
Yeah.
knows? However, if you look at the other things that happened during that period of time, first on the foreign policy front, the drone war was expanded
Yep.
significantly to the point that we're having multiple drone attacks every day that are not reported anywhere.
Right.
There was a period, and also we're funding extremists in some of these areas. In Qatar, there was a 6-month period in 2015 where American-backed forces blew up 100 hospitals.
Yeah. No, you're absolutely right.
And so in terms of foreign policy, I really haven't seen a significant shift. In terms of domestic policy, with the exception of the few things that I mentioned, there really hasn't been a significant shift. At one point, Barack Obama even cooperated with the Republicans to cut the payroll tax that funds Social Security. Now, right-wingers want to do away with Social Security. Cutting the funding for Social Security can only help them. Fortunately, that's no longer in effect. The payroll tax has gone back to what it was before that cut. But, there really hasn't been much change.
No, and the signature piece of legislation was the Affordable Care Act, which is a Republican plan, and it has
Yes.
been a Republican plan from its inception when Newt Gingrich introduced it, and when parts of it were introduced in Massachusetts under Mitt Romney. And this isn't a new world-beating type of plan. This was an attempt by a centrist, which is what Barack Obama was. He was a centrist. He was not some fascist liberal, which is a contradiction in terms, but if you listen to right-wing people, that's exactly what it is. It was not some sort of government takeover. It wasn't anything like
Right.
that. It was more apt to be called a giveaway to insurance companies
Which is what
on a
it
massive
was.
scale. I mean, that was good in the attempt to get something passed, and that it was better than what was there before, which.
Well, and look
You
at
know.
the stimulus package. 40% of it was tax cuts.
Yeah.
A Democratic stimulus package would have focused on infrastructure
Right.
and would have had government jobs involved
Right.
instead of focusing almost half of it on tax cuts. At every turn, the policies that Barack Obama pursued were center to center right.
Well, and part
And-
of that was
and-
because of the Republican control of Congress for most of his time.
And the
But he
thing
didn't have to
is,
sign off on
the
stuff,
thing
so,
is, the Democrats aren't going to beat Republicans by being Republican light.
Right.
That's just not going to happen.
Right.
They need to give the working class hope, or they will never recapture them. And right now, all they're focusing on is Donald Trump's scandal of the day, instead of talking about their ideas for the future. And that's a huge mistake. It will cause them to lose in 2018, and they may lose in 2020 if they don't correct it.
The biggest issue is that the Democratic Party thought that, and I was not a big supporter of Hillary Clinton's. I was okay to an extent with her being the nominee, but only early on, only when there was no viable option otherwise. The biggest issue that I had with the Democratic Party was, quite frankly, it would give up anything else. No, we're good, thank you. They would give up their own messaging. They lost their messaging in this rush to find the third way. What they've actually done is move everybody to the right.
Yes.
And so there's no viable second option anymore. It's either conservative or conservative. And that's the issue at hand. And so what you're seeing with the rise of Donald Trump and its ignorantalati, I don't know how to say it, where you've got ignorant people who are in control and in power.
In high school, I called those people igmos.
That would be it. I mean, look no further than what happened to his Secretary of Energy, a guy who, might I add, during the presidential primaries, argued that the Department of Energy shouldn't exist anymore, is now the head of that. He has no background in science and energy. He took over for a Nobel laureate physicist in that position. He got pranked by a Russian DJ who told him he was the Prime Minister of Ukraine and talked to him for 22 minutes. We are celebrating mediocrity and idiocy in this country right now, and the only reason is there's no option. There's no real option. You've got corporatists on one side and corporatists on the other side.
That's completely true. We really have one party in this country, the business party.
That's it.
And there are two wings of that party, the Democratic Party and the Republican Party. There's not a dime's worth of difference, really, between the two of them. And the only difference is which rich supporters they're going to favor.
Right.
The Democrats have to do things to start helping the middle class. And if you look at the people who switched from Barack Obama to Donald Trump, and there were millions of them.
No, we're good. Yeah, that's...
In Flint, Michigan.
Yeah.
There were people who switched. There was also in the last election a very low turnout in that area. And the reason is they knew they weren't going to get any help from anybody. Their water's poisoned. It hasn't been fixed. Barack Obama didn't fix it. He went up there and drank the water as if to say, oh, this isn't so bad. And the people felt betrayed. And that has to change. Now, Bernie Sanders, his message is the message that the Democratic Party should embrace by and large.
Well, and to be honest with you, he isn't some Johnny-come-lately with the new crazy message. This was the Democratic Party message 30 years ago.
Absolutely.
This isn't some new age, pyramid power type of political stance. This is what the Democratic Party was 30 years ago. This is what they said. We've had 30 years of the Reagan Revolution that has made it worse every single day for working families. There's no argument that can be made that changes that.
But the thing is, Ronald Reagan was to the left of Barack Obama, and I would take Ronald Reagan in a heartbeat over Donald Trump.
I don't think he was to the left of Barack
Ronald
Obama.
Reagan gave amnesty to 3 million illegal aliens. Donald Trump, or rather, Barack Obama, didn't do anything remotely like that.
Well, you could say the DREAM Act.
Ronald Reagan, was it passed?
You know what? He can't pass it if he doesn't have support in Congress. The difference is that Ronald Reagan got Democrats to fall in line.
Ronald Reagan raised the capital gains tax to 28%.
Yep, after he lowered taxes prior to that.
But when he lowered taxes and that caused the deficit to explode, he and his advisors realized, oh, we went too far. Let's fix it. So they proceeded to raise taxes 11 times over the next 6 years.
Right, that's very true. That's very true. Well, and a very un-Republican way of doing it.
And he raised the cap on the payroll tax in a deal with the Democrats to save Social Security. Ronald Reagan was a conservative, but he was willing to compromise and get things done.
To get things done. I don't know. I would argue that that the Democrats lost a lot more than what they gained during the Reagan years, and especially in the post-Reagan Revolution.
Now, the worst thing that was the abolition of the fairness doctrine.
I agree.
Which has led to just craziness in media
Yeah, exactly.
today. But anyway, back to our focus of the Democratic Party. They need to embrace raising the minimum wage. They need to embrace union-friendly policies, because unions are what created the middle class in this country.
Absolutely. Yeah, you're absolutely right. Well, here's the issues that I have with the Democratic
they
Party.
need to abandon warmongering, and this is something that both parties have embraced for the last 20 years.
There is the biggest issue that I've got with the foreign policy separation is the idea that somehow if America just backs off, the world will take care of itself. It doesn't work like that. Now, that doesn't mean you have to invade every tin-pot dictatorship. Right. But there is...
You can do things through diplomacy.
You can do things through diplomacy. Look at what Barack Obama accomplished towards the end of his 2 terms. There was an agreement in Iran that saw a loosening of the détente that had been there since the 1970s. Now, did it fix everything? No. But compare that to what's happened in North Korea in the past 6 months. You know, when you talk about the difference between engagement and disengagement.
And the other thing the Democrats have to embrace is spending money on infrastructure in this country, because we've reached a point where they have better roads in Russia and China than they do in the United States.
The biggest issue that the Democrats have, and the country as a whole has, is apparently we're all allergic to doing anything for the common good.
Right.
We can't be bothered. We're so hard up for money
that we don't
level,
aspire to be great anymore. No, we don't even aspire to be good anymore.
I don't care about our streets. I don't care about our schools. I don't care about that. I don't care about that. You know what I do care about? 1% off my taxes.
Yeah.
Because that's what we're talking about in a lot of these cases. And now, I understand that for many working families, that 1% is huge. But we're not talking about working families who are paying the difference in 1%. Now, they'll tell, the Republicans and even some Democrats will talk about who it's for. They'll call it the middle class. But it's for the middle class in New York City. It's not for the middle class in central Kentucky. It's not for the middle class in West Tennessee. You know what I mean? There's a difference there. The middle class in those areas make far less than what we're talking about in the middle class in Alexandria, Virginia, or in Orange County, California.
But I don't see voices in the Democratic Party, aside from Bernie Sanders, that are willing to embrace these positions, and
nobody has any guts.
No, they don't. And I mean, Bernie Sanders is in his 70s. Where's the youth in the Democratic Party? Where are the young leaders who might be seen to embrace the progressive policies?
What's happened is that for too long, and I'm going to bash some Democrats here. The Clinton machine, if you weren't aligned with the Clinton machine, if you weren't an insider to the Clinton machine, you didn't progress up the ranks. You got no support. You never got elected. So what you've got is a dearth of individuals who came up with the progressive mantra to fix their local problems. Because progressivism works on the local level. It always has.
And for those who don't believe that Barack Obama and Hillary Clinton were basically center-right, Ann Coulter, who nobody's going to argue is anything other than an extreme right-winger, said that they were just like the other Republicans, meaning the Republicans other than Trump. Yeah. She saw Hillary Clinton as being just the same as Jeb Bush and John Kasich and Rick Perry and all of those other Republican candidates.
Well, one of the things that gives me hope about the Democratic Party going forward, and there are very few things at this point that do, is one of the things that Bernie Sanders did was he created an alternative method of supporting progressive issues. You don't have to go through the Democratic Party to support somebody running for alderman or congressman or state senator or something like that on a small scale level. By creating a spot where people can go, you know what? We've been throwing money at the Democratic Party. I personally had donated money to the Obama campaign the first time through. One of the things that I learned from that is, yeah, it doesn't really do much. You know what I mean? It doesn't help locally. It doesn't help the grassroots. And it didn't do that during the Clinton years. No matter how many times people say, well, Hillary Clinton was out stumping for local candidates. You don't stump with local candidates with a 40% approval rating.
Right.
You just don't.
No.
So the big thing that I've noticed is this idea that you can empower people to make local change. Now, that's where those next wave of young progressives are going to come from, are from those small local elections. Harry Truman, as much as he was a machine politician from Kansas City, he started out as a guy who ran for city council.
Some of my Democratic friends are embracing the term limits movement. Look, there's a reason why the Koch brothers and other extreme right-wingers are in favor of term limits, and it's not for our benefit.
No, it's because those people would have trouble fundraising. They're going to go to where the most money is, and that's with those PACs, that's with the Koch brothers, that's with stuff like that.
And they won't have the experience to govern, so they'll lean on industry experts.
Well, I mean, you look no further than what ALEC, the industry political action group ALEC, does. Now, they're funded by multinational conglomerates. They actually write legislation.
Yeah.
They just write it, and they hand it to people.
And a lot of the legislation that you see in the state of Kentucky and in other states at the state level is written by groups like ALEC. It's not even written by the legislature.
Absolutely. And the problem that I have with that is that you're not developing legislators who can govern themselves. They always turn back to the same places where they got their power. And you cannot do that.
And that's why you never see change.
That's why you never see change. For people who think that term limits are going to be some sort of panacea, some sort of magic bullet that's going to make everything better, we've already got term limits in place. We've got the ultimate term limit. You can say 0 years.
Right, absolutely.
And that's all about the election.
Yeah.
If you get out to vote, you can say, nope, that person doesn't deserve a single day in office. You can do that to anybody.
Yeah.
Every single position that comes up on the elective ballot, you have the choice to go out and say, you know what? You're done. You've been in Congress long enough. You've done nothing. Mitch McConnell, you've done nothing for the state of Kentucky. Nothing at all. You've lined your own pockets. Your wife has gotten a few good jobs in the cabinets of George W. Bush and now Donald Trump. Nothing.
Anything else?
So much, Will. There's so much. As we talk about politics, I think that's the biggest thing. I think the message that I want people to understand is that there are other people out there who are contemplating this. So as long as you've kind of got that in mind, I think we're in a position to say, you know what, we'd love to hear your ideas. Tell us through Facebook. Let us know what's going on. We'll go from there. We're willing to hear anything. No, there are no bad ideas at this point, except the ones coming out of the White House.
That brings to a close this edition of the Improbability Engine.